Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Bluegrass Jam Along is also brought to you by Token Picks, individually machined guitar and mandolin picks to bring out the best in you and your instrument. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back. This episode is a repost of an episode I put out a couple of years ago. And the reason is there's a brand new Punch Brothers record out, came out on Friday, called The Unsung Adventures of Punch Brothers, and I love it. It's all instrumental, which is the first time they've done that, but more interesting than that is the first record with Brittany Haas as a member of the band. They've done the Energy Curfew Music Hour stuff, and they've done some shows, but this is the first record they put out with Brittany in the band. And I talked to Brittany after she joined the band. It was a really interesting period. Gabe decided to leave Punch Brothers, and I spoke to Gabe a couple of days after he'd done his final Telluride show with the band. And then they announced Brittany was joining. And so when they'd done their first Telluride with Brittany, I spoke to Brittany about joining the band. And I thought I'd put that conversation back out just to mark this new record and this new chapter of Punch Brothers. And just because there's been a lot more people found the podcast since this one went out, and I think people will find it interesting, particularly in the context of the new record. So, yeah, it's just a chat with me and Brittany Haas about her joining Punch Brothers. I really enjoyed this first time around. It was really cool getting to listen back to it and just hear all this stuff again in the context of the album being out. So, yeah, simple as that. Here is my conversation with Brittany Haas. Brittany, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again. It's great to be here.
So last time you were on, I think I interviewed you and Natalie, and by the time the episode came out, it had been announced that you joined Punch Brothers. I think I interviewed you just before that happened. So that is what we're going to talk about tonight, primarily. Brittany has, and it's not, I mean, you've just done Telluride with the band. It wasn't the first shows you've done, was it? It was kind of, felt like a bit of a public unveiling almost.
Totally. Yeah, it was the first full-length shows that I'd done.
Because I interviewed Gabe about 3 days after his last Telluride show with the band this time last year to talk about kind of his reasons for moving on and, you know, kind of why. And so, like, we're pretty much exactly a year after I talked to him about going, I'm talking to you about arriving, which is really cool. And so how much before that announcement did you kind of know what was going on? I talked to Gabe a lot about his reasons for going and his sort of timeline and his thoughts, but I don't know how sort of long this was mooted for before you joined.
It was known for a while. I don't remember the exact timeline. It was, because it's always odd when you're keeping a secret. And there had been a bit of chat about it before it really kind of finalized. Because, like you said, he was thinking about that and trying to kind of make a decision about what to do. And meanwhile, there had been a couple situations. There was a time where Gabe had COVID, and I ended up filling in. So that was like obviously before I knew I was going to be joining the band, but it was an interesting sort of first experience with everything was completely crazy because Critter also was not there. So it was a trio with, you know, just very odd like situation, but it was a bit of a crash course in learning some of that music. So that was sort of my like preview, for what it might be like. And then, you know, then it was announced and then we didn't really do anything for quite a while, just with the way that the scheduling was, you know, no new album or touring on the books. And then we had this podcast that we did instead of really playing any shows. So I'd played like last summer after he did his final Telluride. Then we had the acoustic camp that Thiele was running. And that was like my first like proper gig with them, but it was for a very small audience of campers there. So it was, in a way, it was less pressure, but also more pressure because everybody who was there was kind of a super fan.
Yeah.
anyways,
and then they did the Energy Curfew Music Hour stuff, which again is not like a typical Punch gig, and it must be quite nice in a way to not kind of just be dropped into like just taking somebody else. It's giving you the space for it to feel like the way. Then we'll talk about Telluride in a bit, but the way it was sort of unveiled was Punch Brothers 3.0, and it feels like a new chapter, and maybe having a bit of time helped with that. Definitely,
and working on new music too. Sort of redefining what the sound is with me in it. Although I would love to just sound like Gabe because he's amazing. So that's been fun on the older stuff, learning some of his parts.
Well, and that must have been really interesting doing that sort of drop-in couple of shows when he had COVID, because Punch Brothers must be one of the hardest bands to dep for. Like, not many people have done it. So Bryan Sutton sat in a bit in the early days for Critter when he was still sort of finishing up stuff with the String Dusters. But it's not kind of just turn up, play the tunes. It's, they're pretty complicated parts, aren't they, some of them?
Mm-hmm. And at that point, it was very much cramming, and I did use some charts to remember what was happening.
And then, so those Energy Curfew Music Hour, like for people who don't know, it's essentially a kind of live from here sort of format, isn't it? It's not just music, it's music and chat. And but those aren't out yet, so people don't know much about those. What can you tell us about that?
They are coming out in the fall. That's the plan. They'll be out on Audible. There's 8 hours of this variety music show that has some comedy, some skits, a lot of amazing musical guests that we play along with, a new piece of music for each episode that we wrote. And yeah, I think people are going to really like it.
It's funny because you sort of through social media, you see these things happen, and some people obviously came to them as live shows and they saw them. And like now we're waiting to see, and it's sort of funny getting that sneak peek in advance of what's coming up.
Totally. Yeah, I know. It's always odd when something happens, but nobody else gets to be there for it. And I think the idea was that it would have come out earlier, but things take as long as they take.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to hear them. And it sounds like, so there's a piece of new music for each one. And is that where some of the new materials come from that you've been playing kind of a show? Because there was quite a bit of new stuff at Telluride, wasn't there?
There was, yeah. And all of that was stuff from the podcast. There was the new, actually properly newly written pieces, some of which were instrumental, some songs. And then there are a couple sort of fiddle tune covers where we took a traditional piece and had our new way with it.
Yeah, and that seems to be it's funny because it's there throughout Punch Brothers. There's like, for want of a better phrase, odd time signatures. But
yes,
in recent times, particularly with like the reimagining of Church Street Blues, and you guys did what track was it? Waterband on the weekend, and like I was trying to work out in my head what's going on there, if it's a bar of 5 and a bar of 4 or what it is, because it's just this lovely little spiraling swirl of a thing that never quite sets you down anywhere.
Right. It's 5. It's just
right. It's still 5. Okay.
Yeah. And with that, you could kind of, and I might be wrong about this, but because I'm still definitely like learning how to play in 5. That's not something I'd really done much of previously, but you can count it in a fast 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can count it in the halftime version of that.
Every time I thought I got it, it slipped away from me. But yeah, and that's really interesting because I think, I don't know, there's something about hearing something really familiar that at the same time is not familiar. And that constant thing in music and structure does this sometimes and form does it, but this thing of presenting people with stuff they know and also making them work a bit at the same time.
Totally. And sometimes, it depends on the listener and how you decide to take it in. Because I think for me anyways, with the older repertoire from Punch Brothers, I've obviously been a fan because how can you not be? Like, they're so important in this genre. But I didn't necessarily listen with a mind of trying to learn the music previous to being, getting the gig. So there's a lot of stuff where I didn't really know exactly how complicated it was until actually sitting down and being like, how many beats are there in that bar?
Yeah,
So
and
that you can't always tell, I guess, is what I mean. Like sometimes it just like sails by and it makes sense melodically. So you don't know what's going on in it, but that doesn't matter.
no, it's a funny one, isn't it? With music, like there is some very complicated stuff that is very complicated, but there's some very complicated stuff that your ear totally understands, even if you couldn't write it down or clap it. Or like my little boy's learning to play drums at the moment, and he understands syncopation. Like I'm sure half of what he naturally plays, if you wrote it out for him, he'd have to stop and count it and think and get really confused. But he just feels it, and so if a line is a good line, it just takes you where you need to get to, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I love that approach to kind of unusual time signatures, because I think so much there is music that is in 5 or 7 or whatever that's just sort of like it's a 3 and a 4 or it's a 2 and a 3 and it never changes and it's there and it's. But I like stuff that drags you around with it and takes you there. So with a lot of this music that existed already, how's that been in terms of learning somebody else's parts? Because you're, obviously have huge facility on all kind of counts when it comes to playing the fiddle, but you're a monster improviser. And is learning somebody else's part note for note a different sort of challenge? Because obviously a lot of Hawktail is very composed, isn't it? It's not just, it's very familiar ground there in terms of that, I'd imagine.
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes it's not totally clear, like what is a specific part and what is just something that he thought of that sounds so perfect in that moment that it sounds like it was written, but it may have just been something that he came up with in the studio or, developed over time. So there's been a bit of guesswork sometimes of deciding like when I do need to do something specific. And at other times it's very obvious, like this is the fiddle solo. So like do what you want with it. But like there's some gestures that he does that are now so kind of firmly in my mind and my body from like listening over and over to it that it's like, I'll just probably keep some of that because it's really great. Like the way a solo begins or something like that. And yeah, because we've basically played, I don't think there's actually been anything where I had to like know it and perform it without having at least one rehearsal where we played through it. And then there've been moments where they're like, oh, like you do need to play that part or you don't, like you could be looser with that bit.
Yeah.
So I'm getting direction.
Didn't just check you in with the blind, leaving the blind in the first gig then.
Luckily not.
I would imagine they probably have to learn that again. A lot of notes in there.
Yeah, I think so.
But I did see that you did at one of the warm-up gigs in Kansas, you did Familiarity, which is a pretty long kind of like complex. It is complex, but it's also, there's a lot of dynamic within that, and it takes you on a fairly substantial journey as you do it. And it's, it's the kind of thing that I guess you need to have in your ears and under your fingers, and also enough to be able to let go of all that on stage and let it breathe. Because it's a magical moment in the set when Punch Brothers play that song. Totally.
Yeah. It's epic. It's long. It's multifaceted. And yeah, just each bit, requires a different type of focus, I think. So that was, I tried, like I definitely previously in life have been a bit of a procrastinator, but I knew that I couldn't really do that on this gig because there was just such an amount of music to learn. So I tried to really, be systematic about it. And I worked the fast part in the middle, that bit, that like I started working on that earlier and just kind of like drilled it because that's like, you have to play those notes and you have to play them really fast.
Yeah.
And there's shapes that are moving around, but it's not completely logical. So I kind of like got that bit down. And then there's all the singing parts, which Critter and I had to flip sometimes because Gabe sings lower. So that's like its own thing. And then the intro, like that's actually been the hardest part for me is like getting those bowed, those bits before it goes into the part, just the double stops and the very specific timing of it, where it's like everybody's starting and ending their notes at a slightly different time. Yeah, so it's been a real challenge for me, and I'm like kind of relearning how to learn and memorize music.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's an enormous challenge. And so, are you singing? Are you essentially singing where Gabe would have sung, if not what Gabe would have sung? or is Noam and Paul singing more as well?
Sometimes, but mostly I'm singing where Gabe would have sung. And if I can get the notes, I keep the notes. And if I can't, then Critter and I flip.
We'll be right back with you just after this. The long-awaited Hill Country series from Collings Guitars represents a new voice in their acoustic lineup. Rooted deep in the bluegrass world, these new Dreadnought and OM models feature a strong fundamental tone with a dry, warm and woody character that's sure to catch the attention of players who hold the vintage instruments of the 30s in their highest regard. Watch world-class pickers Jake Workman, Kenny Smith and Bob Minner perform with new Hill Country instruments on the Collings Guitars YouTube channel, and learn more at collingsguitars.com. Founded in Petaluma, California, and born of a love for music, Token has developed a unique approach to making picks. Individually machined from premium materials like Ultem, Peak, and compression moulded Taulon, Token picks are designed to bring clarity, speed, and tone to your playing. Used by top artists like Chris Eldridge, Jake Workman, Andy Falco, and Trey Hensley, Token picks are fast becoming a bluegrass favourite. Follow on Instagram at TokenMade and learn more at tokenmade.com. Because I remember thinking when I first heard that you were joining the band, thinking, well, this is fascinating because this is, it can only go in a different direction and that's going to be really cool. And then my first thought after that was, what about the vocals? Because they've got the three of them together have such a sound.
I know.
It's one of the things I'm most looking forward to hearing when I see you guys in the flesh again. It's just how that changes because it's all, it's such it may feel like a tiny part of it compared to all the instrumental work, but it's such a key part of the punch sound, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big deal to me, I guess, because it's not something I've really spent a ton of time on. Like I've sung a little harmony here and there, but this is, yeah, like you said, a little more fundamental to the overall sound. And Gabe is such a great singer and really had a great way of sort of blending, going between playing and singing and also doing some things at the same time that are challenging if you haven't really done that before. So it's a big area for improvement for me.
And if they do a few of the Phosphorescent Blues tracks live, are you going to play the drums as well, like Gabe did then?
Nobody's asked me to yet. I'm hoping it stays that way. Maybe we could get your son to sit in.
I'll send him over. He'll syncopate all over it for you. Oh, it's cool. And you've obviously played with all those. Obviously, you played with Paul a lot through Hawktail, but on various other projects. I was listening to the Caitlin Canty last record that you and Paul and Sarah Juros play on, and Chris is on it a bit, and Noam's on it a tiny bit as well. And I interviewed her about that, and I was asking about kind of playing with you guys. And the phrase she used was, she said, Paul and Britt, the way they play feels like a two-headed monster to me. And she meant it very much as a compliment.
Yeah. That's
but
great.
I guess it's easier to slot into a band when you've made music with most, if not all, of the people in it many times before.
Definitely. Yeah. But in all the ways, in terms of like feeling comfortable socially as well. And knowing how to read like the signals. I think that's a big part of like band dynamics for me, is like, especially when you're the new person and there's a lot happening, like being able to watch and try to take those cues as something to help you get through it and, know what's going on and feel the up and down of the energy. So that is really helpful when you know somebody and kind of can take the hints that they're giving you.
It's funny, isn't it? When you've played music with people for a long time, I think sometimes you don't even notice what language you've got. I mean, I was in a band with two guys for the best part of 20 years. It was about 4 different bands, but there was 4 of us in the end that overlapped on these bands. And I think other people come in and they're looking at you going, what? Nobody said anything there, but you all just did something. And you go, no, we said, and then no, you didn't. You just, one of you looked at it, and I don't know who looked at who. And it's like, but it's so easy to just develop shorthand that other people don't see, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes you really need that sonically, like when you're on stage and you can't actually, like doing the one mic setup I have done that before a good bit with Tony Trischka and Michael Daves, but it feels a little different in this setting. We also do have been using clip-on mics to support that. So it's not as crucial to get exactly up on the mic in terms of what the audience hears, but in terms of what we're hearing of each other, it's really tricky because whoever you're next to, you can hear, but you might not be hearing the other ones that are a little further away. So there's a lot of like looking and like trying to see when the hand is hitting the string or something like that. So yeah, it definitely helps to know the people as well as you can. And just pay attention to every little thing that they're doing. And they've got it so dialed in, obviously, after 18 years of being a band. Like there's a lot of really specific things about how they phrase stuff together. It's amazing.
It's interesting that is. And so there's the gigs you've done so far been single mic with clip-ons.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was talking to Dave Cinco for the podcast recently, and he said he thinks Punch Brothers are one of if not the best band in the world at doing the coordinated single mic dance and knowing how to mix themselves in front of a mic. He said Punch Brothers and maybe Del McCoury Band are the two that can really do that, because it's a whole other element to the performance, isn't it?
Totally. And at this point, like again, with knowing people and like body language and stuff, that's a whole other thing of knowing like which way are they going to move, and like how am I going to like get around and make sure I don't poke anybody in the eye with my bow or get bonked with the instrument swinging around.
And how was Telluride for you? Because obviously you've done Acoustic Camp, you've done the Energy Curfew stuff, but this, like, seeing it from the outside, it felt like this was a bit of a public unveiling and celebration of you as part of the band.
Totally. Yeah, it was like very moving and like kind of felt like triumphant and like very sweet because that band is so loved there. And I felt very welcomed by the audience, which was amazing. And we worked really hard. Like I think because I'm new and because we were playing a bunch of new music, we'd done 2 warm-up shows in Kansas and we rehearsed a lot. Like they're the rehearsingest band that I know. So we'd spent a lot of time like really knowing what was going to happen. And I feel like we did it. We did what we came to do and it went well, which felt great. And then we had the Opera House gig on Sunday night and that was a lot looser because that had a lot less rehearsal time and there was more like adventurous set list decisions about like segues and stuff like that.
Well, I was looking because I heard the Town Park set because it's all sort of on Koto, still broadcast on Koto. I managed to hear that, but obviously the Nightgrass set wasn't on there, or I didn't find it, and I haven't seen a set list, so I'm really curious to know sort of what went in that.
Some of the same, some of the new stuff, a lot of old stuff. There was one new piece that we didn't get to on the main stage that we played there. Sort of a smattering from all the records. Basically, we played Familiarity again. We played Flippin', some things that like are easier for me to jump in on because they're like tunes that I already knew. And there was some more comedy bits and, that's what I remember. It was kind of a whirlwind.
I can imagine. And so with those, I was interesting with those, the sort of the comedy sketches that clearly are born out of the Live From Here, Energy Curfew kind of format. Is that like, are they in the set now because of the Energy Curfew thing, or is that like, is Punch Brothers 3.0 moving more in that direction, or do you not know yet?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Yeah, I enjoy it. And we have them now because they've been created for the podcast show. So it's a fun thing to get to include there. And I'm not sure how much of that will stay.
It's fun. It's fun sort of, it's a slightly weird situation to be able to witness some of this from several thousand miles away and sort of feel like I've heard bits of this and I was able to be there for a bit of it and yet not. And it's a strange way of dropping in on it all. And I was totally floored to hear you do a bit of Benjamin Britten's Peter Grimes in the midst of all of it, which is just my favourite opera of all time. I love it. It just it's one of the most special things. And to do the bit that you did on a festival stage, like in front of a bunch of people who probably don't know that, it's a very bold move.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a really quiet, delicate little piece of music and quite sort of angular and like almost fragile, and it could easily just sort of drift off on the wind somewhere. But it's a beautiful piece of music.
Yeah, I really like that one. It was really fun learning that.
I'm looking forward to you doing the full opera in time.
Maybe. We shall see.
And like a kind of more technical question, I guess, but I was just curious that following somebody in a band who plays a 4-string fiddle as somebody who plays a 5-string fiddle, like, does the 5th string feature much? Is it like, do you have to, or do you even think about that? Do you just play? And
thus far, yes. I mean, maybe in the new writing there will be more room for that. I mean, actually, in the Peter Grimes there was a low F, so that was useful for that one note. I'm trying to think if there's much else where it's gotten utilized yet. I would say probably not. I mean, I usually in my regular playing of just whatever other music, I use it a lot more when I'm kind of comping or doing a supportive part, pads, that kind of thing. So, and I think because of where I'm at with the punch music, I'm not like, actually, one thing that's really cool about them as a band is that there are a lot of moments where everybody is not playing, whereas like in a lot of my other situations, and Hawktail, it's obviously a smaller band, so there's more time when everybody's in doing something, and there's just less need for that in punch because there's more people and more intricate parts and roles as backup parts. So I'm not sure how much I will be like chopping on the C string, but it's there if it's called for at some point.
Well, I guess it's a useful bit of range as well, because Paul tends to use the whole instrument.
Absolutely.
And so having that ability to like not necessarily overlap but meet in the middle somewhere is probably quite handy.
Totally.
And has it felt so far like being Brittany Haas in Punch Brothers is any different than in Hawktail or other situations? Is it sort of, are the things it's required of you or that have just felt different and surprised you? Or
that's a cool question. I think it's a bit of both. Like I feel true to myself and like showcased as myself on some stuff. And I also feel like there's room for me to grow into the role of me in that band, which has a little bit of like what Gabe was, and me like being like, I want to carry on because I really love what he added to that band. And it was really special and amazing. And I already feel like I've learned a lot just from learning his parts on those songs. So I want to keep some of that. And obviously I want to be myself, and it feels like there's room for all of that. And I think also the nature of some of the soloing that stretches me as well. So I feel like it's like in the same direction that I would have wanted to have gone, but it's like helping me go further that way.
Yeah, and it feels like kind of growth is an important part of that band, an important part of the individuals in that band. It feels as an outsider to be a bunch of people who are looking to see what comes next.
Totally. And they're like really not afraid to work really hard towards that, which is really cool because I think sometimes, not to say that anybody else is lazy or something, but just like, especially having that kind of culture together with your friends of like, okay, like this is going to be really hard, but we're going to figure it out together. Like that's inspiring and motivating to do that with people.
Well, and I mentioned this to Gabe and to Critter when I interviewed them before, but when Punch Brothers first became a band, it felt like there was a real intent to become a band, and they all gave each other nicknames, and they all it felt like we are forming a gang. Mm-hmm. And I got a little sense of that again at the weekend. Chris posted a video on Instagram about Punch Brothers 3.0, and there was just kind of it was such a clear intent of this is the next stage, rather than his Punch Brothers with somebody different playing the fiddle. This is like there's something really nice about that sense of, okay, that was all cool. This is what's next. And you don't lose any of what was cool about what came before, but it just feels exciting. Do you know what I mean? And I think as a fan, that's a really cool sense to get from it.
Totally. And it's very sweet for me too, to feel very much a part of it already.
I love that Noam referred to it as the Brittany Haas band featuring Chris Thiele.
Yeah, it was a pretty cute way of addressing the whole thing, because everybody's been like, are you going to change the band name? Like, it's got to be siblings or like and sister.
But this is it. It's not actually the Punch Brothers, is it? It's just Punch Brothers.
Right. Yeah.
So like it's kind of a bit more vague than that.
Totally.
And so what's the plan next? So you've obviously got some new music, and I haven't seen any details of more shows coming up this year, because I think you've got one more gig in California in August that I've spotted.
Yeah.
Is there other plans to record and tour, or is that all still a bit up in the air?
There are plans, but they're vague. They're distant enough, I think, that they don't have to be completely figured out yet. There's, and I'm also not sure what I'm supposed to say.
This will be another one of those situations where I chat to you and 2 weeks later the truth comes out, and I'll have to get you back on next year.
I feel like that's better than me like saying it and then being like, oh, I really wasn't supposed to tell that.
Well, and I'm sort of pretending that I'm asking on behalf of my listeners, but essentially what I'm saying is, when are you coming back to London? That's my question.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. When were they there last? Was it within like the last 5 years?
It was on the All Ashore tour. So I think it was 2018. Okay.
So that means it's like pretty overdue, I guess.
Yeah.
But probably not until the record's out, I suppose. So,
no, it probably doesn't make sense before then.
And that's probably, 2 years away. That's a guess. No,
I'm gonna put that out there now as a fact. You heard it here first, folks. 2 years today. Cool. Well, I look forward to hearing whatever it is. But in the meantime, you also, by the time this comes out, will have a new duet record out, won't you? You've got a new album coming out.
Yes. On Friday, actually, in 2 days. The 28th. And then there's a bunch more music coming down the line for Hawktail as well.
Oh, cool.
Which I don't think any of that is quite announced at the moment, but it will be shortly.
So tell us about the record that's coming out on Friday.
Yeah, it's the second album that I've made with this amazing Swedish fiddle player, Lena Jonsson. And the first one was from 2015, so it's been a while. We kind of both went our separate ways, and actually she has a band called the Lena Jonsson Trio that's the same instrumentation as Hawktail Trio version. And she writes really amazing tunes, so she's been busy doing that, and I've been busy doing other stuff, and we just kind of missed hanging out and playing music together. So she came to visit in Nashville a year ago, and we spent a week writing tunes, and then we made a record very informally. We just set up microphones in Paul's house, actually, Fiddle headquarters. And we made this little record, and then we've done some gigs lately, and it's a bunch of original music. It's fun. It's fun stuff. I love her playing, and she's really easy to work with because she's just very open, and like I've never had that kind of ease of co-writing tunes with anybody else where we're just like, that's kind of cool. Okay. Like, so yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and I think it's cool music, and Twin Fiddles is just a very like satisfying, easy collaboration.
Yeah, you say you did some gigs. You were here in London, and I missed you. I was away somewhere. I can't think where now, but yeah. And is there more planned for that? Are you going to be able to play more shows together, do you think?
Nothing. I mean, right now it's just a little tricky to find time for all the various things. So we're going to do 3 gigs in California, actually, with my sister as well.
Oh, cool.
Trio. But that's all that's on the books at the moment.
Just that and your 2 other bands.
Yeah.
Not much. That's really cool. Well, I'm really excited to hear sort of what comes next. Hear some new music, hear what direction Punch Brothers 3.0 goes in, and also really excited to hear some new Hawktail stuff when that's out as well.
Thanks.
You are now in 2 of my favourite bands.
Aw. That's very sweet. Appreciate it.
Cool. It's really nice to talk to you again.
You too, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.